So again, good evening, everyone. And again, thank you for joining today's evening. Again, we start with a short 9 breathing, mindful breathing exercise. Then we can generate motivations by thinking the meaning of my life is to not only be just concerned with just myself, but to be more benefit and help to others. And there's nothing more beneficial and helpful than to be able to help others to reduce and overcome their own negative afflictive emotions. Which are the root of all the problem and suffering. And to be able to help them to do that, then I must achieve fully awakened state myself. And I'm going to try as much as I can to actualize that fully awakened state. And for that, I need to contemplate, practice, meditate. And for that, I need to continue to learn, study, and put into practice whatever I've learned as much as possible in our everyday life. Therefore, I'm going to listen and engage in discussion, reflection, contemplation as much as possible. Okay.
Praise the Shakyamuni Buddha. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma of refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms' atoms in all aspects. With supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual apparition, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Part of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on mass of Vulture's Mountain in Rajgriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at the time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara worked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhists who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Ayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Orisoa. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Short mandala offering. Sajipuki Jungshi Taking refuge in venerating bodhicitta. Sangye charam soke chonam la janchu bardu dani gap suchi dagi shuningi be sonamgi jola pencher sangye drupashu. Sangye charam soke chonam la Janju Bardu Dani Gapsuche Dagi Chunyengi Besonam Jola Pencher Sange Drupashu Sange Chudam Soge Chonam La Janju Bardu Dani Gapsuche Dagi Chunyengi Besonamgi Jola Pencher Sangye Drupashu.
Angye duje nirone, dawa duje bambeje, dambe shunde duje be, godam de la cha salum. So I think we have been discussing on this praise, in the Praise of Dependent Originations by Lama Tsongkhapa, praise to Buddha Shakyamuni. And I think last week we kind of conclude where he kind of summarize where is, I think we finished verse number 37, yeah? I believe that was what we finished up to there, 37. So in that he summarized, saying among the teaching on the dependent origin, is the supreme, among all the teachings that Buddha gave, among all these teachings, the teachings of the dependent origin is the supreme. And so the teachers, among all the teachers, the teacher who taught dependent origin is the supreme. And among the wisdom, there are many wisdom that understand different objects, different knowledgeable objects. Among that, the wisdom that realize or understand the dependent origin is the supreme. It's like the king of the world. It's the most supreme because it's only through the understanding of ultimate reality of emptiness through the dependent origin that one can cut all the delusions from the very root of it, and thereby to liberate completely, permanently from all the sufferings, and achieve true liberation or freedoms. And also it says, it is the Buddha, you, who really understand directly, correctly, these dependent arisings. No others has understood and taught that. So that is, and now we continue verse number 38. And again, I think I just wanted to, probably we will finish by next week, this one, today and next week. So maybe next Wednesday, we will finish the independent origin. And from the Wednesday in August, we will start succession of Guru Yoga. So I, yeah. So in third, again, praising the Buddha Shakyamuni, especially again by having taught the dependent arisings. And within that, praising for Buddha for teaching the dependent arising, and the very reason, praising by very reason that Buddha taught dependent arising is to lead sentient beings to freedom or nirvana. So that is where all that you have taught, so that is verse number 38, proceed by way of dependent origins. So here it is saying, Buddha gave many different teachings, and all of those teachings were directly or indirectly to lead towards understanding of dependent originations, emptiness. So that, as Shantideva said in his Guides to the Both Way of Life, chapter 9, all the branches or the Buddha taught, even the others 5 perfections or paramita, all the Buddha taught was all to guide towards the wisdom. In order to have that wisdom relaxing in the emptiness, dependent arisings, you need to have some foundational understandings and also to create merit and so forth. So others as a way of supporting, all others practice are as a supporting to develop that wisdom, So it is similar. And therefore, the Shantideva said, therefore, whoever want to free from the suffering, try to actualize the wisdom. The wisdom relies on emptiness, dependent origin. And same Lama Adisha, the great Adisha, also said, all the 84,000 of teaching Buddha taught they all were directly or indirectly to lead towards to have the understanding of the emptiness dependent origin. So that is why it proceeds by the way of dependent origins. And why is that understanding of dependent origin so important? Why all other teachings or practice were somehow to lead towards these realizations? And if that is so, why is this realization so important? So without that realization, there is no way to achieve liberation or nirvana. And for that purpose, that is why it's important. And for that purpose, that reason why Buddha gave these teachings. That's so that too is done for the sake of nirvana. That is what it means. Buddha didn't taught emptiness, dependent origin, just saying, oh, I will discover this something new, some new knowledge, something new discovery, which has nothing to do with our liberation and reducing our negative emotions. Of course, nowadays you can have a lot of new discoveries, but it's nothing to do with that to reduce your afflictive emotions and achieve nirvana. But the very reason why Buddha gave so much emphasis and taught the emptiness dependent origin is mainly to help the sentient beings to free from the samsara and to achieve liberation, nirvana. For that only reason that he taught, for that purpose. You have no deeds that do not bring peace. So therefore, the teaching of that dependent origin, emptiness, is to really to help sentient beings to achieve inner peace, liberation, nirvana, by eliminating their afflictive emotions, their disturbing negative emotions, because that is the root or the main cause of problem and sufferings. And the only way to eliminate them, the way to reduce and the way to completely eliminate them is through cultivating the wisdom realized dependent origin. He's saying it's amazing that your teaching, so verse number 39, your teaching is such, in whoever ears it fall, they all attain peace. So who would not be honored to uphold such your teachings? He's saying, your teaching, especially the teaching on dependent arisings, all your teaching, particularly the teaching of dependent arisings, anyone that, and is able to contemplate after hearing that, and then contemplate on that, lose and eventually overcome the negative emotions that disturb and agitate our mind. And thereby it bring peaceful, thereby it will bring peace in your mind, attain the peace. If that wouldn't uphold such teachings and who wouldn't practice such practices, And therefore, here Lama Tsongkhapa was saying, I'm very honored to hold these teachings, uphold these teachings, you know. And not only me, who would be so honored to uphold such teachings. So that is what Lama. Also, the Buddha's teachings. So, verse number 40 is, it overcomes all opposing challenges. So all opposing challenges that believe or accept that there is a permanent self, there's independent self, there's inherently existing self. Those who propose such view and those who uphold those view, are being such opposing challenge are being overcome by this Buddha's teaching of dependent arisings, which is very rooted in valid reason and logics, overcome those challenges. And such teaching is free from contradictions between early and later paths. Within the Buddha's teachings, of course, like for example, all the 4 tenets all come from the different source of sutras. So they all are taught by sutras. Certain, the first turning wheel of the Dharma, that is the source of the tenets of Vavasika and Sautantrika school of thoughts. The third turning wheel of Dharma, especially one particular section of that, Dote Gongdel, within the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma, there is one section of one sutra, one Dote Gongdel, which is clearly explaining the thoughts. And that is the source of the tenets of Siddhamatara or the Mind-Holy schools. And second turning wheel of the Dharma, such as Heart Sutra and all the Prajnapada Sutra, they are the source of the tenets of Madhyamika, the middle way schools. So all those different schools of thought within the Buddhisms, they all are coming from different sources of the sutras by the same teacher, Buddha. Sometimes if you don't study the whole scripture fully enough, there might seem to be contradictions. But again, if you study them all in details and depth, there's no contradictions. There's no contradictions. As Lama Tsongkhapa said in Lamrim, when you study Lamrim, you see all the Buddha's teachings as a non-contradictories. You see all the Buddha teaching as instructions to engage in your path without any contradictions. Same is that through each of those tenets, you learn the meaning of selflessness or emptiness from gross level to more subtle level. And when you understand those gross level of what selflessness means, the main core of Buddha's teaching, selflessness of the person, selflessness of the phenomena. And there is an understanding and explanation of that from gross level to subtle to more subtle level. And it is important to understand, in order to understand the subtlety, the most subtle emptiness, If you understand the gross and more subtle, and then you can compare, and then you see the difference, very small subtleties. And with that understand those small subtleties, then you begin to understand the more subtle correctly, unmistakenly. Otherwise, sometimes we think we understand, but sometimes there is small, very subtlety that can make huge difference. And so therefore, in that regards, those do not have contradictions. So that is why it's free from contradictions. Also, between the early and later part means, within the earlier part of the Buddha's teaching, later part of Buddha's teaching, or within same sutras, the early part of the sutra and later part of the sutras, even though sometimes it might seem, if you take it literally, it seems contradictions. But if you understand those different sutras, definitive and interpretive sutras, within the Buddha Sutra, we can divide in two kinds of sutras. Some of sutras, what we call definitive sutras. That means you can take literally the meaning of those. And then some interpretive sutras. That means you cannot take those literally. You have to interpret it because you have to understand the context of that, the meaning behind that. If you understand the context and meaning behind that, then you understand. So in those cases, you cannot take it literally. Okay? So even though sometimes it might appear contradictory between different sutras or earlier and later sutras or part of the sutras, but if you understand the context of those teachings, the meaning behind those teachings, then there's no contradictions. There's no contradictions. If you don't take it literally, everything as literally, there's no contradictions. Okay? And so therefore, the teachings such as earlier and later parts, it grants fulfillment of being's two aims. And all the Buddha's teachings, practice, grant fulfillment of being's two aims, sentient beings' two aims, temporary aims and ultimate aims. Temporary aims or temporary goal or temporary benefit is, happiness of this life, happiness of future lives, within the samsara, that is temporary aim, temporary benefit, temporary goal. And the ultimate goal, the other goal is the aim or the goal, ultimate goal or ultimate aim is to achieve liberations, nirvana. And within the liberation and nirvana, ultimate goal, then there are two types of liberations, self-liberation and non-abiding nirvana. Self-nirvana or non-abiding nirvana. Self-nirvana is the nirvana or liberation achieved by the arhat. Non-abiding nirvana is the nirvana that is achieved by the Buddhas. Okay, and both of them are part of the ultimate aim. Okay, so that is, it grants such teachings and practice grant fulfillment of beings, sentient beings, two aims. And Lama Tsongkhapa says, when Lama Tsongkhapa think of that, when he reflect on that, when you contemplate on that, such Buddha's teachings and practice that has those three qualities, when he reflect on that, then for this system, my joy increase even more. When you contemplate on that, his joy and his respect, his faith in such teachings and practice increase more and more. So again, he see the way he's describing about his kind of experiences and his practices and how his own spiritual progress, but also it is a teaching for us. That is also how the way for us also the way to increase and improve our respect, our joy, and our faith in the Buddha's teachings. And Buddha himself is through understanding and contemplating all of this. The more you contemplate, the more you understand, the more it increases those virtues and positive feelings and realizations. And next, how Buddha himself practiced so hard in order to have these realizations, all the spiritual realizations, especially the realizations of dependent arisings. The wisdom relies on dependent arising and emptiness. And there are two ways, from my point of view, which is kind of uncommon, or even from the ordinary common point of view, that is based on Theravada traditions. Even from both, either you look from either from a point of view, you can see how much hardship, you can say how much effort the Buddha has given to have that realizations. It's important to understand because for us, we don't put effort and we complain not having realizations or not having transformations. Have you put that much effort? Have you really worked hard? If we haven't put enough effort, if we haven't worked hard, then complaining and criticizing might not be the, the right way. So here it says, even from Theravadins tradition point of view, from their point of view, same when he came, he was Bodhisattva, he wasn't Buddha, and it was his final and both. Until then, he was still Bodhisattvas. So, of course, he has practiced on the Bodhisattva path for so many eons of lifetime in the before, but even in that his final, even as the Bodhisattvas who have made huge progress over the many lifetimes, eons of lifetime, even that, the 6 years of meditation that he did under Bodhi trees, without eating, without sleeping, without moving so much, one place, that much of dedication, effort. For us, without eating, without drinking, if we have to do 1 week, we might complain. It will not be easy, And determination, when you sit on that, he said, until I achieve enlightenment, I'm not going to move. And and did that. And that is finally he achieved enlightenment after all. As His Holiness says, there is one very statues of Buddha Shakyamuni. Most statues, Buddha Shakyamuni's, he's beautiful, very peaceful, calming, pleasant lookings. But there's one statue with all his, you can say all his ribs, And I think the original is, I think maybe in Pakistan now. The original statue is in museum there or somewhere. And anyway, I think His Holiness might have shown the statue itself one time. I don't remember that story. But anyway, His Holiness says he also created duplicate statues of that, similar. And he put that because it encouraged him the hardship that you need to go through, the lot of effort. You can't achieve enlightenment, by not putting effort. Even the Buddha himself, even as highly developed, highly realized bodhisattvas, he had to put so much effort. And so he said it inspired him. And His Holiness used to give the pictures of that to all the monks, so that they put there, so they should remind them of that. And so here is more or less a little bit talking about that, how much effort the Buddha has put, and hardship Buddha have gone through in order to have such realizations and correct understanding and realizations of all the realizations, especially the realization of dependent arising emptiness. For its sake, for the sake of cultivating all the spiritual realizations, and especially the realization of dependent arising emptiness, you, referring to Buddha Shakyamuni, you have given away again and again over countless eons. So not just one lifetime, but for eons and eons. And not only one time, for eons, again and again, many times in the eons. And that sometimes you gave your body. For example, if we read Buddha's life stories, such as Jataka stories, and those are the stories Buddha himself recollected of his previous lifetime as a bodhisattva. So it's a collections, it's a sutra that is a collections of stories of Buddha Shakyamuni's life as a bodhisattva on the path. And so one of those very famous stories is about as a bodhisattva, one of the prince, he gave his body to starving tigers. And that place is in Nepal now, supposedly there is a place, it is identified that one. As a prince, he saw a tiger's mothers with the 5 cubs, and almost like she was so weak, she was either dying, and also the cubs probably will die because of, not being the mother to feed them. And again, as a bodhisattva, an incredible compassion arises in him. He tries to see if there is other ways that he can save and feed the tigers and save the mother and the child, the 5 cubs. But again, he didn't want to kill other animals to give that, to kill another animal, to save another animals. He didn't feel it is right. and only things that he could come up with to offer himself. And he lay down. The tiger's mother didn't eat him at the very beginning. It was even too weak. Even he put his clothes, lay down, and then he took a branch from he cut a branch from the tree, and he started to scrape his body, and blood started to flow. And the mother started to lick the blood and slowly ate it. That is among many stories, okay, as Bodhisattvas, giving his own body. That was one of them. That is why sometimes you give your bodies. At others, you give your life. And others times, so this is part of practice of generosity, giving your own body, your own life, practice of generosity, as well as your loving kins and resource of wealth, and then other times, he gave everything, and a resource of wealth, and all of that he gave, I think last time, I think in Sunday, in one of class, we talked about also there was descriptions of that where just to get two not verses, two line of teachings, Buddha gave everything. Because he gave everything his own countries, his own kin, everything just to get two line of teachings at one time. So, the Buddha gave all of that to receive the teachings, to have the realizations of those teachings, and of course, resource of wealth is easy when you are able to give your own body and life and your loved ones, that wouldn't be so difficult. So that is where. A lot of, and not only one time, again and again. Not just in one lifetime, but for eons and eons, So that is how the Buddha worked so hard and went through all of this practice in order to have the correct understanding realizations of dependent arising, emptiness, and others. So therefore, here is saying also, of course, if we are not in bodhisattvas, we might not be able to practice as the bodhisattvas able to do, but we try to do according to our capacity, our ability. And we aspire and we make a prayer that may we be able to give our own body and everything in the futures as we make progress on our path. When you reach certain level in your practice, then you wouldn't have any fear, hesitations, and pain in giving even your body. Instead, there's a lot of, joy and happiness. As it is mentioned in the great Chandrakirti's supplement to middle way, the bodhisattvas, when you reach the path of seeing, when you have incredible bodhicitta mind, and wisdom realizing emptiness directly, and when you have that union of that incredible, powerful bodhicitta mind plus this wisdom realizing emptiness directly, you will be able to give your body, without two minds, without any fear, without any hesitation, without any, and even without pain, like being chopped. Even you have to chop yourself to feed someone, another beings. That's like you are chopping the vegetable and giving it. And when you reach such point, then, it is allowed and you are advised to give the nourishment of your body. But when you have not reached certain high levels, then you are not advised to give your body, and not allowed to do that. Also, we have to understand. Because when you have not reached that, if you have too much pain when you cut yourself, you might not be able to contemplate and practice. And you might also regret later and all of that. But when you reach certain level, there's no way for regret. There's no hesitation, no fear, no pain. And when you reach that, then it is allowed and advised to do that. So again, we have to understand, even among different practice of generosity, it is not like everyone should practice that immediately. And those we have to also practice, understand, and then based on that, our own level of practice path, we try to practice according to that. That is another important to understand. And also in that, when you reach certain level of both sort of path, in Chandagiri it explains, when you hear someone asking for a help, asking for generosity or help, you develop just by hearing that incredible bliss and joy and happiness, even more powerful than the joy and blissful of arhat. At the moment when we hear, we want to close the door, we want to put down the phone for us. But for when the bodhisattvas, when they reach certain level of practice, that is how they, of course, they will be even more blissful, more joyful when they are able to help. But even when they hear someone asking for their help, that is the joy, an incredible joy they generate, bliss. And so therefore, again, when we reach that point, then that is one. But again, of course, we practice according to our level and not try to pretend we are there. We have to take easy step by step according to our level. And sometimes we hear about those great level practice of bodhisattva, and then maybe we might beat ourselves because I couldn't practice that way, the way it is described of some bodhisattvas. You have to understand and accept, acknowledge, accept where our level is now and practice according to that and try to aspire and try to keep in our prayer to be able to practice those higher level bodhisattvas. And as we make progress, when we reach them, then those practices become also easy, So then here, next verse number 42. The qualities, again, explaining the qualities of, positive qualities of the dependent arising. Seeing the qualities of these teachings, so saying Lama Tsongkhapa say, when I reflect, contemplate, meditate more and more on the Buddha's teachings, especially on dependent arising emptiness, I see all incredible qualities of such teachings and such practice, The more I reflect, the more I contemplate, the more incredible quality I find, I see, the more I find how this is the key to end the samsara, how this understanding or the wisdom realizing emptiness, dependent arising, is the key to eliminate the delusions and the karma from the very root of it. So seeing the quality of such these teachings, in general, all the Buddha's teachings, especially this teaching on dependent arising, okay, this teaching especially, particularly this teaching on dependent arising, pulls hard from your heart, it hooks your heart, your mind, just like what a hook does to the fish, a fisherman's, throw the hook into the river, with whatever food, and then it hooks the fish. In same way, when I reflect on my heart is hooked that way. And feel sad is not to have heard from you. And when I'm more thinking, I feel sad that I didn't hear those teachings directly from you. I wish I could have received those teachings directly from you. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear those teachings directly from you, and I feel really sad about that. I feel very sad about that. Because I have not been able to receive and hear directly from you. And that sadness, that intensity of that sorrow, the sadness or sorrow, that not being able to receive and hear the teaching from Buddha yourself directly, that kind of sorrow or sad is very strong and intense. Is like just like the mothers or like the mind of mother constantly goes after her dear child. When the mothers has the only child, dear precious only child, and when child is sick or have some problems, the mother cannot stop not thinking about the child's problem, the child's sickness, child's pain and problem. The mother cannot, it keep on constantly, comes in your mind, constantly come in your mind. In the same way here you say, for one, that kind of sorrow or sadness, I cannot stop that for not having received the teachings from you directly. At the same time, also, nor I can stop my mind from cultivating respect and inspirations towards you for having taught such teachings. And thereby, the faith, the respect, the devotions arise very strongly towards the Buddha. Thereby, I cannot stop from not praising you because that is how I feel it. It's not like I'm praising you just for sake of praising, but I'm praising it because it comes from my heart, and I cannot stop from that feelings, the intense gratitude, respect, the faith that I have towards you as I reflect, contemplate more and more on these dependent arisings in all your teachings, and especially on these dependent arisings. So that is again, Lama Tsongkhapa, his own personal experiences that he experienced in sharing, you know. Here too, verse number 44, as I reflect on your words, all your teachings, I've here too, you know, I have not been able to meet you directly and receive directly from teaching, but here, you know, your teaching are still alive, and I can study and learn and reflect, contemplate, you know. So here too, as I reflect and contemplate on all your teachings, your words, especially this dependent arising emptiness, you know, when I reflect and contemplate on that, I think, you know, then I can have a general image of what Buddha is, as it is described in many of the prayers and the teachings. Blazing with the glory of noble marks, you know, as it is described in the teaching. I have an image of Buddha. I can have an image of the Buddha with all this, you know, as it is described in, you know, Matthias, ornament of the realizations, all the, you know, 80 minor and 32 major signs of enlightened beings, you know, on physical level. There are many major or minor signs of being enlightened is described, you know, physical of that. So it's talking of blessing with the glory of those noble marks, you know, like, yeah, there are many, like the chakra on the prints of foot and hands and many others, you know, yeah, the curlings and we don't need to go all of that. Glory of marks and hallowed in a net of light rays. So as it is described, you know, there is an aura, you know, and also in Thanga you see, you know, there's a drawing of aura behind the Buddha's body, you know, that's hollow in the net of light rays. As it describes, so Buddha, Lama Tsongkhapa was saying, he can imagine that. He can imagine that. These teachers, so those are the qualities of the body, and then qualities of Buddha's speech is this teacher in a voice of pristine melodies with the 60 qualities. Again, you know, there is 60 qualities of Buddha's speech. You know, is mentioned that is Buddha's speech is such that, you know, when you give teachings, different sentient beings hear differently according to their level of mind. There can be very beginner, there can be more advanced, there can be extremely advanced, and there are so many different level of disciples teaching in the teaching, and everyone can hear and get according to their needs. So everyone benefit from the teachings, regardless of what subject he is giving. Very simple teachings or very advanced teachings, but everyone's get benefit from that. That is one of the Buddha's speech, you know, qualities of around the 16, you know. Also, it mentions Buddha's bodies is such that, you know, when you look at that, at Buddha, you know, it's almost like never satisfying you. You just want to look at that all the time. It gives you so much peace and calmness. not only I think if you see that Buddha's real himself, but even his image, such as statues and paintings, has some effect of that. You can imagine if you really see him in person. But even just the painting and the statues, and it is not only felt by practitioners or Buddhists or followers, even it's felt by non-believers. I have a friend here in Santa Fe, and she mentioned she was going through a divorce and a lot of hardship, and also dealing with a small young daughters that is caught up in all these problems. And she was dealing with a lot of emotion, a lot of challenge and difficulties. And they went to one of the shop, and there was a stone statues of the Buddha in the garden was to sell. Somehow just looking at that, it just brought her so much calm and peaceness. And she felt like she needed that for the daughter and for herself. And she bought that and had in her house. And it really helped her to calm her mind, also the daughter, and to bring some kind of peace in that. And she wasn't any Dharma practitioner at that time. And a lot of people feel that. A lot of people feel that way. And a lot of people, even they might have a different spiritual path, or they might not have any spiritual path, but they want to have Buddha because just by looking at it, it gives them some kind of peace in that. And so you can imagine what it is when that you see that the actual being is not just a statues and painting or image, The statues in Bodh Gaya, the main statue in Bodh Gaya, supposedly that is represent the real, how the Buddha really looks. Supposedly it was, according to some stories, it was made according to descriptions of one lady who actually saw the Buddha. And she was the only kind of left of the Buddha passed away who actually really saw Buddhas. And she was describing exactly, and according to that descriptions, the artist, and all the artists supposed to be some kind of manifestation of another beings. And so that is, anyways, that is according to some stories, I cannot say it's absolutely accurate or not, but it has a very special effect. Especially 1 year, at least in my personal 1 year, I was doing some practice retreat there for more than 2 months. Every morning I will go and visit, before all people start to come, very early morning, 5:30 is when there are less people. And then I will do some practice and just gaze at the statue there. Somehow you feel like you don't never want to leave that place, And that was how I felt almost every day, when you are there, feel like that you don't want to go. Of course, you have to leave, you have to go. You have to give other people opportunity because it's a small place. Also, you need to do your practice, go there. But that is, and so when it describes such qualities, I can feel it's not just exaggerating, it's something is possible of that. And same with the qualities of the Buddha's speech. I think a lot of people feel similar. Maybe we cannot say exactly, but like also someone like His Holiness Dalai Lama, whatever teaching he's giving, some of the time he's giving very, very advanced teaching but then there are newcomers who have never been to his teaching, completely new, but still they receive something, they get something. And sometimes he's giving very public talk, very simple talk, which you have heard 50 times, 100 times, but still you get something. You receive something. You get something from it. And there is something special quality in that. In terms of the subject itself, it is something he has spoken 100 times, 50 times, and you have heard everything before. There's nothing new in terms of the word itself, but there is some kind of power, some kind of qualities in that. Still, every time you hear, every time you receive, still you receive and you get something meaning. There's something you can take from here, that something transformative, and so that is, and that is, so then again, by taking that example with our own direct experience, then I can imagine when they describe about 60 melodies of the Buddha's speech, and some of quality being like that. One of the quality being like that, So then I can see, sometimes if you don't really suit that, something you might think, oh, it's exaggerating, or it might be exaggerated. But when you really reflect, contemplate, and when you really relate with your own experience a little bit, then you see, oh, it's absolutely possible. It's, of those enlightened beings. So verse number 45. And so you have that image of such Buddha as is described in the teachings. And then you have, with that image, then you can say, spoke thus in such way, such Buddha with such physical noble marks and such speech qualities has spoken in such and such way. So you can get the general kind of, Lama Tsongkhapa was saying, now I can see, as though, even though he never met the Buddha, now he has this, almost like he can see the Buddha in that way, as though, and then speaking and teaching in that way, becoming kind of more real in that way, The instant such a reflection of the sage forms, the Buddha's physical form, when that Buddha's form or physical form appear in my mind, it shoots me, So that is where we are talking about. The moment you look at the image of the Buddha, and when the image of the Buddhas appear in your mind, it really soothes and calm your mind. Make your mind calm, peaceful. And so again here, Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, that's what he experienced. When you think of that, it really calms his mind. It brings a lot of peace, soothes his mind. Just as the moon ray heals fever's pain. Normally, the moon is known for cooling effect. Sun has the effect of warm feet, warm energies, The sun brings warmness, and the moon has the qualities of cooling down. So it is saying, just like the moon cool downs in the, as evening comes, it cools down everything. In the same way, then when I have that image of the Buddhas appear in my mind, it cools down my mind and make my mind very calm and peaceful and bring joy. So maybe today I will kind of stop here, and yeah, and definitely we will finish next week. So any questions? Any questions here or in the Zoom?
We have one online.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Hi, Geshe. Thank you so much for the teaching. I have two quick questions.
Yes.
One is the story of Buddha giving his body as a bodhisattva. Is that story only in the Sutra of Golden Light, or is that an abbreviated version and there's a longer version in another sutra?
I don't know in all sutras because I haven't read all the sutras, so I cannot say.
Sorry.
How many sutra it is, but definitely in Jataka stories, that is one of the sutras, and yeah, for sure, in Jataka stories, and that is a collection of the story of Buddha as a bodhisattva in 500 different life as a bodhisattva.
Okay.
Which Buddha himself collected them. Yeah.
Thank you. And then the second question is I couldn't hear very well, and I apologize. When you were talking, Geshe, I believe you were talking about the tenets and from which they're the different schools, the different sutras. The second turning of the wheel pretty much had the Prajnaparamita sutras with Madhyamika, that school. The third turning of the wheel is mind only, but I couldn't hear. Perhaps you mentioned a sutra in Tibetan. I couldn't. It's something with Gom. I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. Could you repeat that? Sorry.
So that is. Sorry, you didn't learn Tibetan. Dode Gondel.
One more time, please. Slowly.
Yeah, Dode Gondel now. Are you okay?
Slowly.
Dode means sutra, Gong means the thoughts, and Del means commentaries. So it is an explanation and commentaries of the sutras. And so there is one particular, within the third turning wheel of Dharma, there are many different sutras and sections. But one of them is that. So that is like one of the audience asked the Buddhas, is that in the first turning wheel of the Dharma, you explain, many of the conditioned phenomena as being inherent in existence. Then in second turning of the wheel of Dharma, such as Hasutra, you said everything is empty of inherent existence. There seems to be some contradictions if you take it literally. So how is that? And then in this third turning of this particular sutta, then he explained why he said that in first turning wheel of Dharma and what it means. And then what he said in second wheel of Dharma and what it means. And so kind of differentiating and trying to make more clarity on that. The three phenomena, two phenomena. So I think maybe again we get too confused if we go too detailed. So that is the sutra.
Thank you so much, Geshe.
Yes. Any others? Yes, please. Yeah, you can unmute whoever has questions. Unmute yourself.
Yes, that's I have a question.
Yes, please.
Effort and motivation and intention and practice, all these things are very, very important. They're very important. But it seems also, though, that Buddhism, or the transformation of the mind, is also something natural because Buddhism is scientific, and if you apply the teachings, then the transformation comes. So on one hand, there's personal effort, but on the other hand, there's this natural scientific process.
Yeah, we cannot hear now.
Oh, we've lost her and she's returning right now. One moment.
Maybe.
Go ahead and unmute, Amanda.
Yes, I'm back. I just conked out there.
Uh-huh.
Did you hear everything, Sherab?
I hope so. Yes, it is a natural, but to have a natural transformation happen when you put cause and condition together. You know, it's same when you put the seed, you plant the seed and you put the water and whatever other condition it needs. Then when you put all the condition that is needed, that supports, then natural transformation happens. It is the transformation happens and it's natural. In the same way, you know, our practice, you know, because of the mind has such qualities to have a natural transformations if you put in certain cause and conditions. And so it is more on what kind of cause and condition you put together, you know. And so therefore, the motivation and practice, those are part of, you know, motivation is part of practice too, you know. We cannot kind of course, we can, within the practice, then there is a motivation part and then actual body of the practice and dedication. We can also kind of divide in that. All we can take all of them are part of practice, you know. So again, and so when you put all those different aspect of the practice together, and then certain condition come, then transformation will happen. But if you don't put those together, then it's not going to have transformations. If you don't put the water and the fertilizer and all others, even though seed has the quality to have a transformation to become a plant and fruit, flower and fruit, but it wouldn't happen unless you gather all the conducive conditions together to make that happen, even though it has potential, and that will be the same. Yeah.
Geshe, may I add another comment?
Yes.
I think the reason that this came to my mind is that I'm trying to understand how the transformation of the mind is not up to the inherent self. You know, I get confused. I get trapped into thinking that the inherent self, me, is responsible, and I think that's why I made that first comment, because I get in that. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. As we mentioned before, you know, nothing is inherent, including your mind, and also your mind is made of different continuities. You know, so without the previous continuity, there wouldn't. Without the past continuity of your mind, there wouldn't be the present. Without the past present, there wouldn't be the futures. So they all are dependent on each other. There is a present because there is past and futures. Mind. And there is past because there is present. There is future because there is present. So therefore, again, you know, even the mind cannot exist inherently, independently, without depending on other factors, other conditions. So when we talk about mind, whatever state of mind, whether we talk about any kind of mental factors, or whether the primary mind or any sense consciousness or mental consciousness, whatever consciousness, whether it's a gross mind, subtle mind, more subtle mind, they all are made of many, it is made of many continuum of that particular mind. And so without depending on all the continuum, the mind wouldn't be able to function and exist as that particular mind. And so therefore, again, it cannot be inherent existence, so that even the mind is not inherent existence, as we have discussed before. Yeah. But also it is, the mind is one of the subjects of difficulty for many school of thoughts to accept is non-inherent existence. Is for many school of thoughts, even within the Buddhist school of thoughts, is easy for them to understand the external object of non-inherent existence. But for them, it's more difficult to accept the mind itself is not inherent existence. For example, the mind of all these schools, the Siddhamatra, and they will say, the external objects are non-inherent existence, non-truly existence. It's all perceptions of your mind, is all in nature of your mind, a projection of your mind, everything is a projection of your mind. But when it comes to the mind, which is the subject that is projecting all these external objects, then they think is inherent existence, is truly existence, and so therefore, and that is where difficulty comes, and that is where the difference between the Madhyamika and Siddhamatra, the Madhyamika refute that not only the external objects is non-inherent existence, even the mind subject is also non-inherent existence. And so that is where the Madhyamika, the Nagarjuna and Madhyamika refute Siddhamatra, that even though you refute the external objects as existing, inherent existence, but you still accept the mind as inherent existence, and that is where they say by that understanding, you can let go of grasping to the external object, but how can you let go of grasping the mind itself if you believe and if you hold it as a inherent and truly existence? And so that is one big difference between the Madhyamika and the mind of all these schools. Yeah, and so therefore, even they find difficult to accept the mind as not inherent existence. Even within the Madhyamika, Sotantrika Prasangika, even within the Madhyamika, the Sotantrika Madhyamika also, they have similar, they also have difficulty of establishing the mental continuum, the mental consciousness, as not being existing inherently from its own side. And again, even though they refute, the sense consciousness and many other consciousness as, but when it comes to mental continuum, then again, the consciousness, they also find difficulties. It is only Prasangika where it refutes everything as being empty of inherent. So again, you see, even around those Mahayana tenets, those are all a part of Mahayana tenets. Mind-only school and Madhyamika has two schools, Sotantrika and Prasangika point of view, and then you see how each of them get more and more subtle. And sometimes, a lot of time, even in Tibet before, a lot of practitioners couldn't differentiate those subtleties. They thought they were same. They thought many of practitioners, even before that, or scholars, they thought there was no difference between the mind-only school and Madhyamika schools. And then there were some others who thought there's difference, but then they didn't understand there was a difference between Sotandrika and Prasangika. They thought they were all same in come to that. And Lama Tsongkhapa in Tibet, he was the one who clarified that more by going back to the Indian source, studying Arjuna's text, and then commentary written by Buddha Palita on that. And then Lektenche, what do you call Lektenche? I don't know his name, in Baba Viveka. Then Baba Viveka wrote a commentaries refuting Buddha Palita, saying, oh, you have not understood Nagarjuna's point of view. Baba Viveka wrote a kind of writing negating Buddha Palita, saying your interpretation of Nagarjuna is wrong. And they both are disciples of Nagarjuna. And then Chandrakirti came defending the Buddha Palita, saying, Buddha Palita was correct. You are the one who was wrong. And that's where it came difference. You know, Baba Viveka, his point of view, and Buddha Palita and Chandrakirti, they were insane. And that is where the difference comes. Those different, very subtle, very subtle. And so unless you read all those different, starting with Nagarjuna's, and then commentary by Buddha Palita, and then how Baba Viveka negate that, saying that that is not the Nagarjuna, maybe you misunderstood it. And then Chandrakirti is writing and say, it is not Baba, it's not the Buddha Palita who is mistaken, it is you, Baba Viveka, who have not understood Nagarjuna's point of view. And then Chandrakirti make it more clarity about those differences, small differences. And that is why there's a difference. And so sometimes, that is why sometimes people think maybe it is not so important to study all tenets. But then study sometimes is hard to know the differences. The differences are very subtle. Even the practitioners were confused or didn't see those subtleties, the differences of subtleties. And only when you study that and you see very subtleties, differences. And that can make huge difference in order to have the direct realization of the more subtle level of the emptiness, according to the Prasangika point of view or not. So therefore, what I'm saying is, I think it can because the mind being that lot of, not only we, but even some of the great scholars, not only great scholars, great Mahayana scholars, great Mahayana Buddhist scholars, such as even Baba Viveka, even they were having some difficulties with understanding that. Okay, so yeah, dedications.
Yevadinyoda Lama Tsongkhapa Shika Malepa De Sala Gwepasho Gancho Sencho Rinpoche Make Panan Ge Kyoshi Ge Wanamba Me Gomne Gondo
We can do maybe 3 medicine Buddha mantra. Ayata Om Bekante Bekante Maha Bekante Bekante Raja Samogade Soha Ayata Om Bekante Bekante Maha Bekante Bekante Raja Samogade Soha Ayata Om Bekante Bekante Ma Bekante Bekante Ranja Samogade So. So we can dedicate for His Holiness Dalai Lama and everyone who is going through different treatments, for those treatments to go very successfully and to be cured fully and completely and healed completely. Okay.
And go back to the long life. Long life prayer for His Holiness. Gangri Rawe Korwe Shikante Pendande Wa Mother Jongwe Jere Zen Wan Tenze Yasoi Jabe Si Te Patu Tengyuruchi. Prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prajeka Buddhas, victorious Lotong, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Munis' precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You hold the element of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great robes of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.